This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Well, let's talk about Von Braun. That's where we're headed, and that's sort of the subtitle of the show. Huntsville bound. How does Huntsville become the first venue? I mean, you live in the Music City. Your dad, was printing money for years and years in Memphis. Was there ever any consideration to using the old Mid-South Coliseum?
Monterey Peninsula artists. I'll go right back into that's sort of, I think, in a way where we left off. They were the booking agent. For those not familiar, that how touring acts work, whether it's whatever your favorite artist may be out there, they have artists. I mean, artist has agents, but they have booking agents that basically route the tours, and it's those guys' job all day, every day, to get on the phone and say, okay, if we're doing LA, can we pick up San Diego? And if we get San Diego, can we pick up Las Vegas? And just route a tour. And so ours wasn't that complicated because it was going to be basically 26 shows in the first year. So we didn't have to really route trucks and semis, and WWE's rig right now, I think it's over 20 buses and 25 rigs. I mean, so you have to logistically figure out how you're going to get around. Whereas was much simpler than that. But we were going to do Southeast and Midwest markets. And we did not want to start with Nashville, although I wanted that to be one of the first ones. I didn't want it to be the first one.
Why not?
Why didn't I want Nashville to be the first one?
Yeah, why not?
A lot of ways, maybe, and I can't vividly recall the specific conversation. I know Monterey had good, they got good relations with every venue, but they sort of landed on Dayton. And that was the WCW. They went in and did their research as much as they could over a 6-8 week period. And Hara Arena up in Dayton was a good WCW venue. There were several, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, even into the from North Dakota all the way down to Texas, that whole geographical area. But the South is, basically the WCW area, Atlanta, Macon, all those markets. But Huntsville was a drive. And I felt that it's close enough that I can pop down, like I popped down to First Family Mortgage in less than 2 hours. But no, it was close enough, but not in the Nashville market. And Memphis was a market that, it was so ingrained in USWA and Jerry Lawler and everything that went with that. I wanted that to be, maybe in the first 3 to 6 months, but certainly not out of the gate. So Huntsville was close enough, but it wasn't hometown.
So also too, I guess we should mention, once upon a time, there were Monday Nitros, there were Thunders, there was even a Monday Night Raw. Back then, Huntsville serviced some live wrestling televised events.
A lot.
But then eventually it became not an A town and not a B town, but a C town. So most recently, when WWE was touring here, and gosh, even AEW, I mean, they're struggling to sell 2,000 tickets. 3,000 tickets will be considered a home run. I mean, it's not a wrestling town, but it was nearby and manageable, and there had been TV there, but there hadn't been in a while. So I guess it could be worth a shot. Let my family save your family some cash. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket, but we will save you money. It's not a matter if, it's a matter of how much. SaveWithConrad.com. Talk to me a little bit about the SixSided Ring. It's not on the first show. Did you have the idea for a different shape of a ring before the first show and you just didn't get to deliver it until later? Or did the idea not come about until later?
Didn't come about till later. There was no thought. It was 4-sided ring all the way. It was a WCW ring, again, coming from the WWF. And man, though I saw YouTube and our great ad-free YouTube folks keep cranking out the videos, but I guess I made a comment about a WWF ring, but I can remember in the mid 90s, they were much harder than they are today. But that would be one of those things. And when you would have a conversation, I'm not saying me and Scott, but somebody that had worked in both organizations or had just worked in WCW and had heard about WWF rings or whatever it may be, they would slip in that conversation. Hey, so what kind of ring we going to be using? And I would obviously know exactly what they were trying to. Are we going to get beat up on that hard hash ring? But I'd say no. It is a WCW ring, and it's the ring. The first ring we used was just that, a WCW ring that had somewhat been quasi, and we'll get into it next week, refurbished. But that's a true WCW ring with WCW nitro mats. If you were to flip those mats over, Conrad, did you know this little Easter egg?
No.
If you were to flip the mats over that were around the ring in Huntsville, the one you attended, you would have seen nitro flames.
How'd you get them?
Conrad, I can't tell you everything. Tune in next week. I'll that's a teaser for next week.
So let's go to the Observer, because I know you love when we quote Dave and you get to argue with him. The first pay-per-view on June.
Just stop. No, Dave is brilliant. I will say this, because he sells subscriptions like we sell T-shirts and pay-per-views and paper, every action figures. Think about the business that Dave has built.
It's tremendous.
Tremendous. Back to the early 90s when a guy called me the other day. He's like, yeah, I was the leak in Memphis. I'm like, yeah, we're well aware of that. But anyway, Dave had a group of sources, unpaid.
Wait, who was the leak in Memphis?
Guy named Brian Trammell.
Okay.
You know him?
That name rings a bell.
Yeah, of course you do. But no, but think about, Dave, just like we say it's the greatest card of all time, Dave would say this issue has over 40,000 words.
Yes.
Okay. But hats off to him. He's made a fortune off of it.
Here's Meltzer's recap here. They have made some changes that are far better in theory. The idea of doing 2 shows at every taping has been nixed, as well as the touring. The new plan is to tape 2 shows on June 19th in Huntsville, and then starting on July 3rd. And is that a bad night for pay-per-view or what? Running every Wednesday night at the 9,000 seat Nashville Municipal Auditorium. That building lost most of its business to the more modern Gaylord Entertainment Center, so they can get a cush rent deal because the building is empty for much of the time. The building may be too big to weekly paper, but they're apparently trying to work with some local businesses to get enough free passes out. The disaster of attempting to sell tickets in Huntsville apparently made them realize the idea of booking a mid-sized building and selling tickets wasn't going to fly. Do you remember making that adjustment before the first show?
Yes, divine intervention. I didn't think it at the time, but when I look back on it, Nashville being the community that it is, and Gaylord is what it used to be called, and it went to the Sommet Center, and now it's called Bridgestone Arena, the home of the Preds. But in that time, Conrad, this is really a fascinating story. That Municipal Auditorium and WCW, we done pay-per-views in there. That's where I sang With My Baby Tonight. But no, it had housed lots of wrestling over the years, but it had really fallen on hard times. Nobody was using that building. And they, through a lunch I wasn't a part of, the Municipal Auditorium folks told the Monterey Peninsula, look, we'll have you as much as you would like. And I'm like, no. Anyway, so one conversation, and this might go back into, I don't want to say April, but maybe even May. It had gone back a ways that conversation took place. And as we began to roll along, and then, okay, make it into a studio, and then Municipal Auditorium said, look, we don't have to sell seats up top. If you know the Municipal Auditorium outlay, it's a huge floor space, but they have great rising bleachers, and you could cut it off right there. And they do. And they did back then. Nowadays, they've got even a really nice pull curtain and everything. And you can make a 2,000 seat venue. I mean, a 9,000 seat venue look like a 2,000 seat venue, and it worked well. So that conversation was a running conversation, unbeknownst to me, but as rolled along, and then the amount of cost that could be reduced, just the business plan. And so I just heard this on a YouTube channel not long ago about being able to pivot. I didn't call it that at the time, but yes, we were prepared, and I was obviously willing to make a pivot at that time.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.